it almost didn't. For estate planning documents to be valid, you have to be mentally competent when you sign them. Around the time my mom signed hers, she had visited another neurologist, taken more tests, and was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Fortunately, she was still aware enough of what was going on that the attorney found her competent to sign her will, living will, and power of attorney documents. If I had waited any longer to encourage my mom to meet with an attorney, she might not have been able to sign those documents. Then I would have spent a lot of time and money in the court system getting conservatorship, the legal right to access her accounts and manage her finances for her. This happened to someone I know. Doug didn't have power of attorney for his father and couldn't get it when he needed it because his dad's dementia had progressed too far. While his father was in the hospital recovering from surgery to repair a bleeding ulcer, Doug couldn't pay his dad's bills because the bank wouldn't give him access to his account without power of attorney. So Doug spent 9 months and $10,000 to become conservator for his dad. He had to hire a lawyer and have his dad evaluated by a neuropsychiatrist to prove in court that his dad was incompetent. To become conservator, Doug also had to pass credit and background checks and be interviewed by a court-appointed investigator, a process I explain in detail in Chapter 4. The irony is you spend all those thousands of dollars and it's only good for a year, Doug said. Every year he had to check in with the court, provide a net worth statement for his dad, and file a report showing all of his expenses and how he spent his dad's money. I certainly dodged a bullet there. But because I had waited to get details about my mom's finances until she really needed help, I had a bigger problem. I had to gather information from someone who was having trouble remembering things. It was like trying to put together a puzzle without knowing what the final picture was supposed to be. Going through her files, I could see my mom's mental decline. Her receipts and documents for her tax returns were no longer neatly organized as they had been in years past. Mail was piling up on the dining room table, and I wasn't sure bills were getting paid. And there were letters, so many letters, requesting donations from groups I knew she had no ties to, but clearly she had given money to because they were thanking her and asking her for more. Because she no longer had a firm grasp of where all her money was, one of her accounts slipped under my radar. I didn't find out she had $50,000 worth of investments until a notice arrived that her account was about to be turned over to the state treasury department. That was only a couple of years ago, and my mom already was in an assisted living facility. Fortunately, I was able to get the money, because I have power of attorney, and use it to pay for almost a year's worth of care. Even more stressful than sorting out my mom's finances was making the decision to move her to an assisted living facility. I discussed it with her at the time, but those conversations were forgotten shortly after they happened. If I had talked to her about what sort of care she wanted and whether she was okay with the idea of living someplace where she could get round-the-clock care from professionals before she started losing her memory, I would have felt less stress and guilt when I made the decision for her. I shared some of this story while being interviewed for a podcast with the credit reporting agency Experian. I wasn't brought on the show specifically to talk about my situation with my mom, but the conversation quickly turned to the topic and remained there for the rest of the interview. Both of the hosts, one man who was slightly older than I am, and one man who was younger, wanted to know how they could start having conversations with their parents about their finances. After the interview ended, the 2 other people in the room at the time stopped me to say that they too were going to need to start talking to their parents and wanted to know how. That's when I realized I needed to help others do what I should have done a lot sooner with my mom, have essential money conversations with their parents. I wish there had been somebody to give me the kick in the pants I needed to start talking to my mom about her finances well before she started losing her memory. I was only 35 when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. My mom was 65. I didn't have any friends my age whose parents already were having memory issues or needing help with their finances. So I navigated the difficult process of talking to my mom about money issues on my own and eventually took over management of her finances. Now, many of my friends are facing the same situation I was in 10 years ago. They're seeing signs that their parents or in-laws need help and are asking me what to do. I'm happy to report that those who have taken my advice and have had conversations with their parents have had success. Their parents have listened and taken action by giving their children details about their finances or contacting attorneys to draft or update estate planning documents. I can't promise that talking to your parents about